2018. It's a process, but that certainly continues to be the policy and the goal that we're seeking.
Are you okay with conference schools playing each other as a non-conference game under not scheduled?
You know, that has been discussed. I would say that requires some level of exploration because we do a lot of things at the gate. We share gate revenues. When you have a non-conference game, you have a different financial arrangement. If you're not returning the game, you have a financial fee. So I think all of those things we'll continue to work on. But basically, 9 games, basically schedule up, basically try to play people that have the same number of scholarships. That's been our approach, and it's not just college football playoff related. It's the branding, it's the binding of the conference together. It's the binding of the conference across 2 regions, and football scheduling is a much part of that, as the Gavitt games are, or having championships in the eastern area, is trying to build a larger conference in 2 regions, and that will continue to be, a high priority for us, and I would expect that as time goes on, we'll be doing more efforts, but it's just not here and there. It's trying to make it a one conference thought process.
Do you anticipate moving the championship football game out east, or do you anticipate Indianapolis continue to be in the hub?
We'll have an announcement on that, but just as a general philosophy, when you have 14 fan bases, it's easier to move events than when you have 2 fan bases. And so I think central is the presumption. A central location would be the presumption.
Tim, did you hear pitches from cities about that game, or was it just?
We established that game in Indianapolis at the outset. We thought that it was really important. We had a new television partner, we had a new championship, and we really wanted to stabilize that game. We selected Indianapolis. They've done a fabulous job over the years, not only with our events, but with Olympic events and World University events and NCAA events, professional and collegiate events. So, they're turnkey, they're a tremendous operator of events. We've had 3 events there. We've had 3 different experiences, really. Last year was, over the top, and in every way, I think it was 52,000 people go through the Fan Fest, and it was a sold-out environment and a game with national championship implications. The previous year, we had a number of teams that were ineligible, teams that weren't champions, that didn't do as well. And the first year was pretty good, but it wasn't a hard sellout. It was great game, good event, and so we've had 3 different experiences, and we very much like Indianapolis. We're fortunate that we have great places, to play. And I would expect over time, we've only been in the college football postseason business for 3 years. Some people have been in it for 20 years, and so they have far more experience than we do. We thought we needed to stabilize. In basketball, we started off in Chicago, and then we moved it to Indy on the basis of a bid, and then we have rotated it back and forth. We've then, moved some events to the east. There'll be more events in the Midwest, and there'll be some events. But if you look at who we are now, we're a conference that is in 2 regions. We're almost 6 million living alums. Probably close to 15 to 20% of those alums live in the new territories of the Big Ten. Really small additional footprint, less than 3% increase in our geographic footprint. So it's not a tremendously longer distance than what you would have without it, because but it is a different region of the country, and we haven't been there before. So when we did this, if you go back and look, I said the challenge will be living in 2 regions. All the major conferences are doing it. Nobody has done it before. And that will require real concerted effort to build, make friends, become relevant, build relationships, and that's what we're in the process of doing. But the other side of it is that 80% of our historic fan base and our alums are in this region. So you're going to see a rotation and a respect for both regions, and I don't expect that we're going to be here exclusively, certainly not there exclusively. but I think you're going to see a representation that we live in both regions. And you'll see that with our competitions, our championships, our television network, our alumni base, and we have Big Ten diaspora, so we've got Big Ten fans everywhere in the country, but in particular in that DC to New York corridor, there's a slew of them.
Jim, is your sense in wanting greater autonomy that there's enough agreement within those 5 power leagues that this will all work?
I would say this: I think there's an agreement at a conceptual level about the things we need to change. I think in legislation and policy, the devil is always in the detail. So I would think, at a 10,000-foot level, there's some agreement, and then I think that the agreements need to be resolved into proposals, and then the proposals need to get sufficient majority to show that you're in a majority environment. I mean, that's why you have a democracy, and what the argument and discussion, the differences have been about is what is that bar? Because we know that there's certain areas that need to be addressed. We know that the devil is in the detail, and we want to see 65 institutions represented. We want to see a significant number of student athletes with voice and vote. And what we've tried to put forward is something that ensures a majority vote, and in some cases a supermajority vote, because we think conferences are important. And so what we've suggested, if you have a simple majority in 3 of the 5, you would need 60% of all votes. And if you had simple majorities in 4 of the 5, you should be able to get by with a simple majority. So there would be 80 votes. So in one case it would be 48, in one case it would be 41. And others have suggested there ought to be 4 of the 5 conferences supporting it on a simple basis, and 2/3. Well, we think that would drive us towards quasi-reform or something that would be watered-down reform, because I've never seen any reform agenda achieve those kinds of support, those kinds of majorities. They typically are what I would describe as constitutional majorities. But in terms of daily business, all of these regulations have been put into effect by simple majorities of 351. And if we're going to have autonomy, it seems to me a reasonable compromise is getting 3 of the 5 conferences, simple majority, and 60%, or 4 of the 5 with a simple majority, including student athletes' voice and vote in the group of 80 votes. So, we've thought about that. Our presidents have thought about that. Our athletic directors and faculty have thought about it, and we think we're in alignment on it.
Rutgers has had some unfortunate headlines since it's joined the Big Ten. Is there any buyer's remorse with them, and is there anything you can do to help Rutgers' image?
No buyer's remorse at all. I come when I go to Jersey, go to New York, I go to support, not to judge. So they have boards of trustees, they have administrators, and they're fully capable of handling personnel matters. The Big Ten typically does not get involved in personnel matters at the athletic director, coach, presidential level. So when I come to support and to enhance the integration of Rutgers, but not to make any particular judgments on personnel situations.
Jim, where do things stand with the TV deal?
We've got 3 years left on our TV deal. We're not in negotiations, and those negotiations could play out over the next couple years. Could be sooner, could be later, but we're not active in that area.
Jim, it seems clear that most schools want cost of attendance covered, but what that actual plan is seems a little unclear.
Yes.
Once governance gets done, what would you like to see as a?
Yeah, I like to keep it as simple as possible. I think that I'd like to see the grant and aid expanded from room, board, fees, tuition, books, course-related materials to the full cost of education. So my viewpoint on it, I don't have a vote, but my viewpoint on it is keep it simple and change the grant and aid from one that covers the elements that it covers to one that could be provided up to the cost of education.
Time for 2 more questions.
Jeff, the time that athletes spend on their sport, I know something you raised last summer. Any discussion about maybe changing that at all going?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion. There's a recognition that young people, before they ever get to college, maybe as early as 12 or 13, if any of you have children, are being asked to focus on a sport. Travel baseball, travel basketball, swimming. And so there are fewer and fewer young people who are playing 3 and 4 sports in high school. So the notion of specialization is happening earlier, and the notion of earning a scholarship is happening earlier, and maybe even beyond college. Those ideas come in early. And so, you know, the notion of specialized training doesn't start in college. It probably starts at 14 years old, and it's probably happening for a lot of athletes, whether it be swimmers, track and field, basketball, AAU players, baseball players, playing 100 games a year. So the notion that they come to college and all of a sudden the colleges are turning them into athletes who are highly focused on their sport is a misunderstanding. The difference would be that in college, you're a full-time student, you're involved in community activities in a lot of cases. I think the global experience in college today entails 2 things that it didn't entail when I was growing up. One is, the year abroad. Many college kids go year abroad. Our athletes don't go year abroad. They might go on an international trip of a sports kind, but there's not a junior year abroad. The other thing is, the transition from college to the workplace is tremendously impacted by internships. Most of our athletes are either in summer school or training. So in the out of season, I mean, I think we could create some opportunities that would provide for internships and or junior year abroad. It doesn't mean every year, but it means during a person's college career that could occur. I think that in a lot of cases my observation is that, the season is a long one and people are back in training almost immediately. And there could be dead periods at the end of the season for a period of time. There could be dead periods in the summer. So I'm thinking that, we've got to consult with our coaches and our athletes. I'm not suggesting that there'll be great advocates for this kind of change, but I think it's our responsibility to create a factual reality around the athlete where there's time to go to school, time for personal life, and time for training. So I'm not naive enough to think that it's going to be what it was when I was in school, but I would tell you it's even changed and been enhanced over the last 20, 25 years. From the time kids are 13 and 14, nutrition is involved, strength training is involved, specialization is involved, and it continues right on to college. So I'm thinking we need to go ASAP to the athletes and to the coaches and lay out for them the challenge and begin to get some intelligent feedback about how we can have well-prepared, safe, experiences where excellence is expected and people can work towards excellence, but also one that has some breathing room for some personal time as well as for some academic opportunity abroad and some opportunities for internships. Does it mean internship every year? No. Does it mean a 12-week internship? Maybe not. But I think we need to really inspect the experience, talk to the athlete, talk to the coach, and come up with a template that is, I think, more flexible and more balanced than what it is we have now.
Jim,
Formatting for the men's and women's basketball tournaments.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah, I'm not up to speed on that.
not up to speed?
I think everybody's going to play, and I think the events. I think we can get you that information. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
So
But you can.
it has been determined?
Has it been determined?
For next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, men's side, it's Wednesday through Sunday,
Right. All 14 teams.
all 14 teams.
What else? What other details?
Well, I mean, in other words, yeah, who's playing on what day, and then also with the women's
I'm not.
home sites are okay. You know,
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah. We can get it for you.
Okay.
I'm not your man.
gotcha.
in the middle part of the last decade, your men's basketball programs had an unfortunate dip. They've seemed to have taken a dip of resurgence. Similar in some ways, maybe about 5 years later with football. Do you anticipate maybe a similar resurgence in football that you had in basketball?
I think it's really hard to predict those things. The only thing you can tell, you can kind of be sure of is that you have cycles. We had a really strong cycle from 2000 to 2007. Then we had a cycle that wasn't as strong. In basketball, we had periods were really good around 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. Then we had a period where we were down, and the last 5 years, I think we've been stronger. And we've won a lot of basketball games in the tournament, in the regular season. We've had 5 years of attendance growth. We've had fabulous ratings. Our coach has done a great job, and the performance has been good. But over time, I'm talking about over a quarter century, you see these things happen. It has to do with the talent in your region, the coaching success that you have in hiring people, the development of players. I mean, when you look at Trey Burke and Oladipo, neither one of those kids were regarded as top 5 players, but they were great pros and great young college players. So it's really hard to predict, but we've had a pretty good run in basketball, and I would expect that over a 25-year period, you'll see some good 5-year periods and some less competitive 5-year periods, and that's been my experience here anyway.
All right, that's it for today.